Once you learn how to make roti, you won't stop. Just 2 ingredients and a maximum 1 hour of your time is all you need for this soft flatbread that will cost you only cents to make. Yes, you heard that right. Just 2 ingredients and only cents to make, because all you need for this easy Indian flatbread is whole wheat flour and water. This recipe makes at least 8 roti and costs us roughly 50 cents Canadian. Add 2 cups of whole wheat flour to a large mixing bowl, and I like to mix in 1/4 teaspoon salt. The salt is optional and traditionally not added because roti is typically eaten with other flavorful things like curries that have already been salted. But the little bit of salt helps to bring out the nutty flavor of the flour, and I like to eat some roti on its own, so I add it in. And for the flour, traditionally atta flour is used, which is a wholemeal flour, but it's more fine than all-purpose whole wheat flour. So if you have atta flour, absolutely use it. Your roti will be even softer and more lovely. But if you don't, then whole wheat all-purpose flour works as well. Next, use your hands to slowly mix about 3/4 cup warm water with the flour. Only add as much water as is needed to bring the dough together. If you need a bit more, add just a teaspoon at a time. When the dough comes together, knead it in the bowl for 4 to 5 minutes until the dough is smooth, pliable, and lightly springs back when you press an indent. You get a little bit of a arm workout in, but it's bread in under an hour, so 4 to 5 minutes of kneading is the price you pay. The doughy guns. Oh, there's nothing there. Using a clean bowl if necessary, rub a bit of neutral oil in the bowl and allow the dough to rest covered with a damp cloth for 30 minutes. You can use this 30 minutes to make the main part of your meal, and once you're done with that, you'll be ready to cook your roti so it's warm and fresh for when you eat. After 30 minutes, gently knead the dough a couple of times and then slice the dough into at least 8 portions. Roll each portion into a smooth ball using your palm on a flat surface, then work with 1 ball of dough at a time and keep the others covered so they don't dry out as you work. Heat a pan over medium to medium-high heat. Now here is where you might need to experiment a little bit depending on what pan you are using and what kind of stovetop you have. You want your pan to be hot before you put any roti dough on it. That way the roti starts cooking immediately, but you don't want it to be so hot that it burns. Traditionally a tawa is used, but if you don't have that, like me, then you can use any non-stick skillet or cast iron skillet that can withstand being heated dry. As your pan heats up, roll out your first roti on a lightly floured surface by flattening the ball of dough and then rolling it into a thin circle. The dough should not be sticky, and if the surface is lightly floured, it should actually start moving on its own and rolling itself into an even circle. You can flip the dough back and forth as needed to try and get a nice circular shape of roughly 6 to 7 inches in diameter. With your pan ready, place the roti on the pan and cook for about 30 seconds until you start seeing the dough drying out and bubbling. Flip the dough to the second side and continue cooking for 1 to 2 minutes. The first side should have some nice brown spots. A great roti will start puffing up, and if it isn't, you can press on the sides of the dough with a spatula or a cloth, and this can encourage steam to build up and get that puffing started. Flip the dough back and forth between both sides as needed, and once it's cooked through, remove it from the heat. The roti will deflate once off the heat, and I like to immediately spread some vegan butter over the roti, but this is also optional. Keep your finished roti covered so it doesn't harden while you repeat the process with the other balls of dough. While the roti is cooking, you can roll out your next piece of dough, and that way you have a pretty good assembly line of roti going. And keep an eye on the heat of your pan, because if the pan's too cold and it's taking too long for the roti to cook, then that's one reason that they can turn out stiff and not really soft and nice. If your pan's too hot and the roti's burning, then that can often cause a tear when you go to flip your roti. And if it tears, then the steam will go through that hole instead of puffing the roti up really nicely. So that's where the fun of this recipe is for me, the challenge to get all of the elements right so that the roti puffs up beautifully and is nice and soft. I am in love with how quick and easy this flatbread is, and if you love making quick breads at home, then check out my other videos for my vegan Irish soda bread, which is super quick, my kid-approved vegan cornbread, and my super flaky vegan biscuits for those more indulgent times. It's so satisfying. This recipe costs us 52 cents Canadian, and if we were to order a side of roti from a restaurant, it would typically cost us about $2 to $3, and we would likely get less than 8 roti. So if you like this video, then hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on those notifications because you are going to want to know when we post next. Because up next, we have a super cool travel-inspired video for you where we cook a meal in a volcano. Yeah, you heard that right. That piqued your interest, didn't it? You're gonna have to hit that bell, see what we have in store. I'm not kidding, in a volcano.